for today's shir. Thank you. Clara Murray Shore are sponsoring. It's in honor of the engagement of their granddaughter, Yael Meir. So mazel tov for that. And in honor of their grandson, Ben Shore, cool Ben Shore. Cool on stage, right?
Cool on stage,
He was a finalist, and we saw him on TV. We saw 4 proud grandparents, Shafi Nachas there, and the Chidon Tanakh. He was up there. He was a member of the Sweet 16, who did an incredible job. So a lot of nachas, so we do thank you, and mazel, and only good things. Parshas Naso. And it's a very long parsha. It's actually the longest parasha. And it talks about all kind of wonderful things, like the sota and all kind of vows. But we're going to focus on a few verses on page 762 that has to do with Birkat Kohanim. Birkat Kohanim is quite fascinating because when it's introduced in the Torah, there is no indication that it relates in any way to the service in the temple. It's the Kohanim who are playing a very significant role of quote-unquote blessing us, but it doesn't say anywhere that it needs to be in the temple. Therefore, the authorities, like the Rambam and others, tell us that it's a mitzvah, a Torah law mitzvah, that should be performed everywhere. Meaning, there are things that we do in other places to commemorate the service in the temple. This is not one of them. This actually, the mitzvah of Birkat Kohanim, wherever you do it, there's Torah law. And logically, it should be done every single day, as many of you have noticed. That is the way it's done in Eretz Yisrael and among some Sephardi communities. Nevertheless, it's the custom among Ashkenazi Jews for at least 1,000 years has been only to do it on Chagim. Why? It's a little bit of a mystery. We're not sure why there is such a practice, but like many things in Judaism, you have a tradition, and then the rabbis try to explain the tradition. And the benefit is that you have one practice with 18 explanations. You know, this is often the case. Kitniot, one practice, we avoid specific legumes, and then many different explanations. You eat cheesecake or cheese on Shavuot, I assume. You do. Why do you eat milchiks? So I guarantee you're going to be hearing 8 different explanations, and there are actually 80 of them. Why? There is a practice. We have a tradition. We're very traditional. We stick to what we saw in the Al Tehim, but then explanations, everyone comes up with their own. So there are many different explanations as to why we do not have Birkat Kohanim every single day, when logically we should. And the historically, the one that does make sense more than any other explanation is the fact that the Kohanim understood the significance of what they are doing. This is a very significant moment for us on the receiving end. And it's a significant moment for the Kohanim. Here they are, quote-unquote, blessing us, which we have to understand what the blessing is and what it means and what they're trying to achieve. Due to the significance, they wanted to be on this high spiritual state. What physical things can you do to elevate your status? So you purify yourself by going to the mikvah. So the Kohanim accepted at one point, even though it was not a requirement, they nevertheless felt that it would be nice to go into a mikvah. So that works very, very well in the Middle East. You could go ahead, jump into a river, but then as Jewish communities move into Germany and northern Germany, and come Pesach time, come every single day, meaning, let's go back, there were Kohanim that every single day before doing the Birkat Kohanim would enter into the mikvah. As the communities move into Germany and going into a mikvah every single day to do the Birkat Kohanim would require going into a cold river, or in some cases even break the ice, they would say to themselves, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm not showing up in shul today, because if I show up in shul, that means they're going to expect me to do Birkat Kohanim. Birkat Kohanim, we have this practice of going to mikvah. I'm not going into this ice-cold mikvah. I'm not going to take the challenge, right? So therefore, they avoided even doing the Birkat Kohanim. So you hear the idea. They take a mitzvah, they add to it, they add something to it for being on a high spiritual level, but then it's too overwhelming, and then they say, you know what? Forget it. That's an explanation that's given. The Ramah himself notes the following. This is a very significant message. So this is the Ramah. And the Ramah tells us, listen, the fact is we have the Minhag Kayom, that it is only done b'Yom Tov, Mishum, and the reason is because then they are Shruim b'Simchat Yom Tov. They're happy then. To have a successful Birkat Kohanim, you have to have a happy Kohen. You can't have the Kohen in a bad mood, so let's be very, very careful if we want to have a successful one. Coming Yom Tov this week, twice. We want to be sure not to agitate any Kohen, right? The Gabbai has to be sure if there are two Kohanim, who's going to get more agitated if he doesn't get the Aliyah. You have to have this awareness. You want a happy Kohen. And there's a verse that even tells us, V'tov lev hu yivarech, that a person who is happy can give a blessing. Now, due to the fact that we want the Kohanim to be in a happy state, we're not going to do it in the morning. You want to do it as close as possible to Kiddush. Because what makes people happy? You think people are happy in the beginning of davening? People are much, much happier at the end of davening. We're getting closer to the meal. So that's what he tells us, that you should know. That on Musaf, now by the way, the rest of the year people are on a rush to get to work. Shabbos nothing is like the happiness of Yom Tov. So again, due to the fact that it's a necessity to be successful with blessing, to be in that state of happiness, the Chag is an appropriate time. And even in a Chag, you want to do it at a time, B'tfilat Musaf, sheyotzim az mi bet HaKnesset, the time they are leaving shul, and they're going to be happy b'simchat Yom Tov. So this is what we are told. So the question we're going to ask is, number one, why this happiness? Just do it. Have you not done good things, not happy? I'm sure we've done tremendous things in our times, but here there's some kind of requirement that has to be done with happiness. So to understand it, let's turn to page 762, by Daber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. And he is told the following. You know, the section right before this. What's the section right before him? What does it discuss? It discusses the Nazir and the fact that he doesn't drink wine. And immediately after that, the Torah tells us, you know, that there's something called Birkat Kohanim. What's the relationship between them? So some note. On Simchat Torah, we do Birkat Kohanim in the morning, Shachrit, not Musaf. Why? Because come Musaf, you know what you're going to have? A drunk Kohen. You're not allowed to, just as when it comes to the service in the temple, the Kohen has to be on a high, on a spiritual high, but it should not be that there are substances that give him that external high. It has to be an internal high, that he feels the significance of what he's going to be doing, not the alcoholic beverage. That is what occurred in the temple. Same occurs for this very unique blessing. We want happy Kohanim, but not due to the alcohol. No alcohol. So therefore, Simchat Torah, you do it in the morning. And it seems to be that they are already happy in the morning because they know that very soon they're going to be getting their Kiddush. Right? That is what is done. So here we go. Daber el Aharon ve'el banav lemor. So Moshe Rabbeinu is told to speak to Aaron and his children. And he tells them, Ko tevarchu et bnei Israel. When you give blessings to the people of Israel, do it this way. Do it this way. Now, if you tell someone, when you want to go ahead and bless someone, be sure to use these words. The Torah is very particular. Very, very particular. Don't use other words, use these words. What's the concern here? Something we have to address as well. Next word is amor lahem. I pointed out, and this is not pshat, so don't get too nervous, but it's more pshetel. You know the difference? Pshat means the basic understanding of the text. Pshetel means like acute insight. So I'm going to share with you acute insight. So here we go. When it comes to the word totafot, it's a word that's used to describe the tefillin. And Rashi shares us from rabbinic sources that you should know that tot and fot are words that made their appearance in foreign languages. Meaning if we don't really understand what it is, perhaps we did not preserve the meaning of those words or the word in Hebrew, but you'll find it in other languages. So therefore, the other languages could assist us to clarify the meaning of the word. So you have the right to turn to another language at times to understand what the text is trying to teach us here. Now, Birkat Kohanim, the message is going to be, at the end of class, that it has to be done not just b'simcha. Simcha is important because simcha leads to ahava. The key for a successful Birkat Kohanim is when it is done be'ahava. And in the bracha itself, they get up there. And they said that they are going to fulfill the mitzvah. And he commanded us to bless the people of Israel. Now that would be enough, right? Nope. They have not. If they don't do it, be'ahava, with love. The Kohen has to love the people. Okay, you're getting a feeling here why this can't be done every single day. You have to put a lot of effort into this. This is not natural. There has to be real love at that point. Be'ahava. Now, in the Torah itself, there are 2 times where the word amor appears. One here, amor lahem, right? Amor lahem. Or the kamatz, amor lahem. And the other one is in Parashat Mishpatim, when you have a Hebrew slave, and he's supposed to be free, and he wants to stay on, and he declares that he wants to remain with his master, and the Torah tells us, Vim amor yomar ha'eved, ahafti, I have love. So the word amor appears twice in the Torah. Spanish, amor, love. Love, when the slave wants to leave, he declares his love, and here too it has to be done with love. Now don't say this that it's a pshat, but it is a pshetel. In other words, it's a little insight that you could share, but it does touch upon the main message here. Now, what is Birkat Kohanim? Now this is very interesting because even our artifacts, archaeologists have found kamiyas, very, very old ones, First Temple period, with the Birkat Kohanim. So the Birkat Kohanim, these words are very significant to us. So let's try to understand them, broken into 3 verses, 3 brachot here. Number 1, Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmarecha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless you and safeguard you. God shall bless you and safeguard you. The first one's simple, 3 words. Number 2, verse number 2. Ya'ir, God should go ahead and illuminate his face towards you, and you should have grace. Grace is not a popular word in our religion. In other religion, it's very, very big, but it does have roots in our religion as well, that there's the grace of God. That's blessing number 2. Blessing number 3 is may God lift his countenance, Yisa, right? He should have like this face-to-face relationship you have with God Almighty. Okay? And he shall place upon you, V'yasem lecha, Shalom. Excellent. That's the blessing. But what's the real meaning behind it? So let's move back. To really understand the message here, we have to move back to the Mishkan and the symbolism. There are vessels in the Mishkan, and they represent something symbolically. There are messages for the Mishkan that are not just relevant for the period of time when they actually had the structure, or the structure of the temple, but there are symbolic messages there, even, it's not the coffee, don't worry about it, even in this day and age. So let's imagine the Kohen walking in to the chamber, to the Kodesh, and he sees on the south side the menorah. On the north side, he's going to see the shulchan. Okay, menorah, shulchan. What does the menorah symbolize? Light. What is the light of the people of Israel? What's really our contribution? In what way do we illuminate? Right? I still remember when the terror attack started in 2000. So I was in Buffalo at the time. Terror attacks in Israel, so I was in Buffalo. So we had a communal gathering. The whole community came out, and we had a representative of the state of Israel who spoke to the community about the situation. And there was a little bit of prayer. So this representative of the state of Israel got up, and he talks about the fact that here the state of Israel is trying to fulfill its mission as a light upon the nations. And we are a light after all, because think of our technology, right? And think about our contribution to the arts. And he gave a list of areas where we are a light upon the nation. Now I felt unsettled because although I am very proud of what the people of Israel are achieving, there is a difference between being proud of something and identifying the essence. What is the essence of Jewish contribution? We believe it's values. Now often when you have right values, you could go ahead and take the other wonderful things that exist in the world and use them, right, as part of your values. Meaning, my values are, I believe that there's a higher being, and I believe that every single person was created in the image of God. And if there is a child that needs something, and you can assist them medically, part of my values teach me that they're significant in that child. So therefore, the state of Israel has this wonderful ability to go ahead and put up field hospitals, and it fits into my Jewish values. But I could go ahead and do it and say, you know what? I have a Torah that teaches me that it should be done. I was inspired when they had the presentation about the field hospital in, it wasn't either Haiti or when there was an earthquake in Nepal, that they put up a field hospital and they show with pride that they have an emergency room and they have an ICU and they have everything there, and they even had a Beit Knesset. That is something that makes you, because you are conveying there a message that this is the core and this is what inspires us. That is why we are a light upon the nation. So when I heard such a message of we are a light because we do, I felt unsettled. I didn't say anything. But then afterwards, it was, as a younger rabbi, it was nice for me to see that the members in the community there were the ones that were even more disturbed than myself, because that is not what we are only about. We have to remember that we have a core, and our core, our light, our values, and when we are celebrating this event that occurred at Mount Sinai, at Har Sinai, that is our identity. Jewish identity has to be based on values and education and Torah and understanding that there's a Torah from Sinai. And it begins with that. What we do with it, we could do some incredible stuff. But when we start with that and we transmit that to the next generation, we have a guarantee. And this is something that I deeply believe, that there are two ways to approach Torah. There are Torah things you do to practice. And then there are Torah teachings that you do to teach. If you remember Shabbat, we studied in Pirkei Avot that when you have a desire to acquire Torah, there are 48 ways to acquire Torah. And one of them is Lilmod al menat la'asot. There are things that I learn, and when I learn it, I take it with me. I want to do it at home. In other words, I learned that on a Chag, there is a mitzvah to eat a good food, so I'm going to go ahead and obviously do that. Or I learned that if I have a frying pan and it was used for milk, you don't use it for flesh. When I study, I go ahead and apply it. You apply it, that's wonderful study of Torah, because I am applying the study of Torah. But then there are things that you study that you don't apply. In other words, when I sit down and study a section that relates to the service in the temple, right? I'm not running up to the Temple Mount Erev Pesach with a little lamb and shechting it. But what am I doing with it? I'm transmitting it to the next generation, right? And I'm giving it to the next generation, and I'm telling them, you go ahead and take it and do something with it. Either you'll have the privilege of actually performing specific mitzvot, or you're going to give it to the next generation. And by the way, if you think about the fact that there are people who now live in Israel, and there are people that are farming in Israel, and as they are farming in Israel, they are aware of specific laws like Shemitah or tithing. And these are mitzvot, right, that for many people, for 1900 years, it was not relevant. In other words, you could imagine, I have no doubt, that there are people in Israel now that had ancestors that left Israel 1900 years ago. and they studied Torah, and they studied the laws of tithing. And for them, it was not relevant. But what did they do? They gave it to their children. And they told their children, you study this as well. And it transferred from generation to generation to generation until here we are in the 20th century, that people are taking that precious heritage, that which was given to them, and applying it. And if you think about the beauty of what is achieved, that you have Torah. There are Torah things that you do, but there are Torah things that you hand over to the next generation. And that is what we celebrate with Torah. It's the study of Torah. There are things that we're going to apply. There are things that are going to keep us linked to that incredible experience. And that is the light of Torah. So back to the Kohen, he walks in. What does he see on the south side of the structure? The light of Torah. On the north side, he's going to see the Shulchan. What does that symbolize? Bread. And we are not angels. We need to eat, right? We have to have things to sustain us. We have to go ahead and earn a living. Right? We're not spiritual entities. We're going to be involved in the world. You want to make a contribution to the world, but you have to support yourself, right? You have to tell your kids that you want to have some level of comforts, right? You want to go ahead and have, running shoes in the old days were $20. Today they're $100, right? If you want the name of a specific basketball player, right, that I don't know if he knows how to sign his name, but his signature is on the pair of shoes, you're going to pay $300 for it. There's no joke, right? This is what occurs. Used to be only Michael Jordan. Today there's already a whole group of such people. Now, you want basics or even things that are not basics, you live in a world. And in the world, you're going to have to earn a living. Now, you tell me, if a person only focuses on earning a living, that's their whole essence. And all of the only message they hear from their parents is the importance of parnasa, meaning earn a living. Something is missing there. We all agree that something is missing. That's not what Judaism is about. If on the other hand you only focus on spirituality, that you talk to your kids about spirituality, which is important, and you ignore the fact that they are in a world and they're going to have to go ahead and survive through this experience called life. You know that often it causes damage in the spiritual realm. Because if they are trained in such a field, and then they get married, and then suddenly, somehow, they don't know why they have 3 kids somehow, and they have to start taking care, and Pampers are expensive, and they're overwhelmed, and then they start even questioning this tradition that taught me to only sit and learn and not take care of some basic needs. Look what it did to me. Look at the pain I'm going through, right? Look at my challenges. And sometimes the victim is actually spirituality, believe it or not. That's a major problem. So you have to have the Shulchan. I think you agree. You have to have the light of Torah. I think you agree. You know what you need more than anything else? Someone to teach you how to balance them. And you need an educator, by the way. You need an educator. Because the way one person should be balancing it is not the way another person should balance it. One person could balance it by, putting some time working the whole day and then putting some time for Torah and community work. For the other person, he's making a contribution to Klal Yisrael, right, by focusing almost all day with the study of Torah, because we need such people. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's why education and schooling, right, is a serious challenge, right? Former experts in the field that it's not every student is a different world, right? So you need the Kohen in the middle. The Kohen, and you know what's in the middle in the Bet HaMikdash, the Mizbeach, the altar, that is the vessel of the Kohen. The Kohen has a job. When we talk about the Kohen as a spiritual guide, you know what the spiritual guide is there to do? Not to just preach, be spiritual. Absolutely not. He is there to teach you the balance. Let me tell you what priorities are. Let me tell you what you should be doing and should not be doing. In Israel, if you ever walk down Jabotinsky Street, have you been there? Jabotinsky Street. You've been there? Okay. You're not too far from that place, right? So next time you're at the Bet HaNasi, okay, Shabbos afternoon, You're going to be at the Bet Anasi, and then you're going to walk towards the Larom, or it's the Inbal, right? See, I'm old. I remember the name. You walk towards the Inbal. You're going to walking down. It's a beautiful street. You all agree. And then there's a street called Lev HaIvri. Lev HaIvri. Little street. Israel, always read, I tell my kids, obviously they're not going to listen, but you have to read every street sign there because there's significance and why it's in a specific neighborhood. And there's chokhmah, there's wisdom. It's magnificent. Every single name has a reason why it's in a neighborhood. Now, Lev HaIvri is a street named after a book. Who wrote the book? A Haredi rabbi. His name was Akiva Yosef Schlesinger. And obviously, if you are walking there, and if I ever do a tour, if we ever do like a shul trip again, a Shabbos afternoon, we'll have a lecture there. Because we're going to ask the obvious question, what on earth is Akiva Yosef Schlesinger doing in that neighborhood? Meaning, he should have been in Bet Yisrael or Mea Sharim, not next to Lalin and Jabotinsky. Right? It doesn't make sense. The answer is Akiva Yosef Schlesinger was independent. And he had crazy ideas, and that the Haredim didn't know how to deal with him, even though he identified with them. He had this idea that's called, you got to work. You got to work. In other words, he was confronting the Kollel system, right? And this goes back 100 years ago, 110 years ago. And he was confronting the Kollel system and saying, listen, I want to work out a system that everybody should make a contribution and work the land. And not like the way you people believe, that perhaps one day, if he has no choice, he has to work. But as soon as the young man gets married, he should work a few hours a day, learn some hours a day, and that can be preserved. Because he argued that if you only learn, eventually the learning is going to be lost. He was a very fascinating individual who believed in something called the balance. It wasn't accepted, as you know, the history of what's going, of the culture, at least in those communities. Balance is what the Kohen teaches. Okay? Now, when you want to be a spiritual guide, when you want to go ahead and give advice, your main desire must be for the welfare of the person who is receiving it. There are times that you're going to go to someone, or I'm going to go to someone, for some guidance, perhaps for some therapy, and they're going to give me advice, but a percentage of their advice is to look good. It could be a very small percentage. In other words, I go to a Rosh Hashiva, and I ask him what I should be doing. So even though obviously he's a good committed Jew and he's interested in my welfare, but he knows that if he says something to me that's different, and I share it with someone else that might not look good upon him, so that too is taken into consideration when the advice is given. That's how humans work. I mean, that's the reality. I'm not blaming specific people, but we are selfish. And anything we say, if we are good, we're able to minimize it, but it exists. A successful Kohen is a person that gives himself over completely to give the advice and to give a blessing, because he loves you. It's only about you. And we all need that balance in life, and this is actually what Birkat Kohanim is about. So let's turn to Birkat Kohanim now that we have a little bit of an understanding of the importance of the Kohen giving us balance. And the first blessing, believe it or not, is he's blessing us in those things that need safeguarding. What do you need safeguarding? Right? If your credit card, for example, right? You have to be sure that no one steals. It's happening now more often than usual, I believe. But you have to start. Why? You need safeguarding. I daven to Kodesh Baruch Hu, maybe that's what I should focus on come Yom Tov, that you should safeguard that they should stop taking my American Express number, and right, and have to call in every day to someone that I'm not sure in what country they are, but their language obviously is not does not originate here. And Yivarecha Hashem, God should bless you, Yishmerecha, protect things that are physical. God should protect, and this is what you should be thinking of, and that hopefully the Kohen loves us, and maybe beforehand, if you could give a gift, as Stanley Emerson or Dr. Langer, I'm sure you could go and ask them, do it with love, because we really need a blessing and protection on physical matters. Physical matters. Okay, physical matters. There are many more important things, obviously, than just Parnasa. There's health, but we turn to the Rabbanu Shalom through them, and we say Shmira. Now, number 2 is the light of God. What is the light of God? Blessing number 2. What is the light of God? Spirituality. Ya'er, we need spiritual assistance too. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha, and then we're going to find this grace from God, the light of God. Now, when often you could benefit from the light of a source, even if you don't come in direct contact with that source. I'm sure I'm not the only one that during this season, come 5 a.m., sleep is a little bit disturbed. Does that happen? It doesn't happen during the winter, but during the summertime, 5 a.m., even with those guaranteed curtains that are going to block out all light, right? Light somehow has that ability to get around the guarantee, unless someone could tell me that there's some real good drapes that could... Why? Light, even if you do not see the source of the light, you could go ahead and benefit from that light. Blessing number 2 is the Or of Hashem, the Or. The light, which is spirituality. But there's a higher level, and that is as if you have a face-to-face relationship with God, where you are really fulfilling what He wants you to do. You're not just inspired by Him. Right? People who see the light, you've heard stories, not just in our faith. They see the light and drop everything and they run out and they live a life in from monastery to lahavdil to the yeshiva. Seeing the light is good, but that doesn't guarantee balance. The balance you get is when you are face to face with God, which is a high level. When you have Yisa Hashem panav elecha, when He lifts His countenance, when you are facing Him and you know exactly what He wants from you based on who you are. And based on who you are means that the piece of advice that the Kohen gave someone else how to balance things is not what's relevant to you. You have that, Ya'er Isa, number 3. Isa Hashem panav elecha. And then you're going to merit peace. Peace is not Middle East peace. Peace means internal peace. You feel settled. I'm doing the right thing. I'm learning, I'm doing acts of kindness, I'm studying appropriately, I'm davening appropriately, and I'm taking care of my family. Shalom. That is the greatest blessing. That's the third blessing. That's the mission of the Kohen. Now, the problem is that sometimes you have these people that quote-unquote give blessings, but they become like, I'm not going to use the word celebrity, but they feel very good about their achievements. And it's about them. And even in Israel, there's a danger now that exists that people go to spiritual leaders, Kabbalists, quote-unquote, and they request a brachot, and they give you a bracha, and they guarantee all kind of nice things if the check is right? Or lahavdil, Sunday morning, you turn on the TV, and they talk about seed money, right? Oh, I guarantee you put your hand, right? And anything, $50 for $50, right? So there is a tremendous danger here that when there are those that are here to guide you, they're putting themselves in the picture. And they feel that it is their words that are achieving things. And we are attracted to charismatic people. That's human nature, right? We're seeking that leader. So therefore, in the beginning of this section, we are told, Ko tevarchu, number 1, remember the first things. You want to give them a blessing, you want to give them guidance. Remember, you're not doing it, it's not you, Mr. Cohen, but rather you are going to be the ones to inspire them to connect to the higher being. So therefore, use these precise words. Ko tevarchu et bnei Yisrael. Don't come up with your own blessings. The Talmud tells us that a Kohen cannot say, listen, once I'm up here, I might throw in another pasuk. No way. You do it with these words and these words only. And every single one of these blessings has the name of God right there in the middle, right? Yivracha Hashem, Ye'er Hashem, Isa Hashem. Why in every verse? Because that's the idea. It's not you, Kohen. It's not you. It is the Almighty. It is through your love that just as when you give guidance with love, you can give appropriate, balanced guidance. So too, when it comes to the love, be'ahava, you could go ahead and give that blessing. And therefore, at the end, look, page 764, the last verse. V'samu et shmi, let them place my name, al b'nei Israel. But who really is giving the blessing? Who is really blessing us? Va'ani, it is the Almighty. And it is so important that the person guiding should not do it for themselves. In other words, you want to be successful in assisting other in any field, from therapy to giving advice, to guidance, to spiritual guidance. The message it's not you. You're nobody. It is what you could help someone, and you have to work out the be'ahava. Only through love can that be achieved. When after the Birkat Kohanim, there's a tradition. So on Simchas Torah, there's a tradition that we put the little golf balls in their shoes. I don't know if there was a tradition here, but the shtick was that I'm not saying to do it, but but there is a tradition to give the Kohen a yashakoach. Give a yashakoach. What are you giving him a yashakoach? Not just that he did it, but if he did it right, he loved us. He did it be'ahava, and that's not an easy thing to do, right? You shake your lulav and esrog, right? You light your Shabbos candles. You do it. It's a good thing. There's no demand to meditate beforehand. You could. It's a nice thing. But there's no demand here. It is within the blessing. So therefore, Levim really should take upon themselves this responsibility. Because they are preparing. And I have two Levim here, sitting one next to the other. And it is really your job, I think, and I have another Levi here, right? So we got three Levim. So this really should be the message of the Levim. That you guys, when you're washing their hands, right, you could perhaps remind them that they have this important mission, important mission of doing it be'ahava, and then we give them a yashakoach for doing it with love. And may we merit indeed to have a successful Birkat Kohanim, and everyone should have a Chag Sameach. We're celebrating Shavuos this week, and everyone should enjoy it. It's a mitzvah to be happy, and because we're happy, we can have this mitzvah. And thank you again to our sponsors, and a lot of nachas and mazel and bracha, and a good day to all. Thank you.